Should we explain this first?
I think so, yes, maybe.
Okay, so there's 6 of these in the world. The first one is in the World War I Museum in Kansas City. The second one was sold 2 weeks ago, I think, for $75,000, and the money from that is being used for sleeping bags, which are being distributed through recently occupied or recently liberated territories. And then the third one is here, so it's going to Kyiv tomorrow, actually.
So we have one of the originals here, which is actually super interesting because what we're going to talk about is anything but original or anything but about originals, in the sense that we want to talk about memes and their impact and their speed. Because should I introduce you first? I mean,
sure.
I think you don't need introduction, but I think this is my role to do that. So, Christian Borys is a Canadian entrepreneur and former journalist of Ukrainian and Polish descent. You're from not far away from here, no? Your father?
My parents are both born in Stargard Szczeciński, but my dad lives in Przemyśl.
In Przemyśl, okay.
Yeah.
So you were once based in Kiev, where you did reporting for BBC, CBC, and Vice News and other outlets.
Yep.
And right now you're based in Canada and Poland?
In Toronto.
In Toronto.
Yeah.
So Christian created the Saint Javelin meme in February before the war started.
Yeah.
And one could argue that hence the power of this meme, because it kind of preceded the war.
I actually didn't create it, though.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Just to clarify. Yeah.
So maybe we should introduce the author of the meme.
Yeah, so the artist who actually made these icons as well, he's an American guy named Chris Shaw. So the original is what you see there, but she's holding a Kalashnikov. So he called it Madonna Kalashnikov. I think he created it in 2012. And then this was basically an internet joke that started, I think it appeared in 2018, but it was like very, very, very niche. The only people who knew about it were basically, military analysts and some journalists and stuff like that, people who follow the war so in such detail that they would understand what a javelin meant to Ukraine, right?
And so when you published this meme, it became viral. Yeah? So it started from something very singular and contextual, and then suddenly started making rounds, and quickly it became something that was a global phenomenon, and it also started rallying people. So, and then you started building on that. Yeah, so how did it come? So, I mean, you didn't start this meme with the intention to build this meme empire. I mean, this is how it's described right now. Yes, that you are.
So it basically started because I'm in, I have the same types of group chats that I'm sure a lot of you guys have, right? With journalists and analysts and people who follow all of the events in Ukraine in great, great detail. So even though I wasn't working in journalism anymore, I was still in those group chats, still talking to people. So I was paying attention to what they were saying about Russian troop movements and understanding that what Russia was doing along the border wasn't a training exercise. And the more I listened to what they were saying and the more the reports came out from the US intelligence community, it just brought me back to the work that I used to do in Ukraine. And then essentially all I wanted to do was raise like $500 by printing, a few hundred stickers. But the day that I put this meme up on my Instagram and I said, does anybody want to buy a sticker? I got a bunch of messages, so many that I put up a website that night, and then the next day I woke up and it was like $1,000 in sales. And then the next day it was like $5,000. And then media started calling because at that time Ukraine was the biggest story in the world, right? And everybody was wondering, is Russia going to invade or not? And then it just got so much attention. And now, the Saint Javelin meme is just one design that we have. There's so many. So it's evolved in such a crazy way since what I originally kind of accidentally hoped for.
And now you're planning for it, in the sense that now you have people who collaborate with you, who intentionally create memes so that to get a message out, to reach people, and to rally people behind an idea. And that is something that is, this impact of these kind of short messages is super important, one might say. And what is maybe interesting is that the meme culture, or the meme wars, how they're also called, kind of were mobilized first by the right in the 90s, when the first idea of the culture wars arose in the United States. And there was this idea, the authors of a book that is called Meme Wars. It's really interesting to look into that, because they analyze also the attack on the Capitol from January 6th, and how meme culture and this kind of circulation of images actually mobilized those people.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
oh,
Absolutely.
That's great.
And what they trace it back to is the 90s, and Andrew Breitbart, who said, taking up this idea of a religious war raging in the US, he said something that politics was downstream of culture. So he kind of, reversed the equation. So he said that if you can change culture or influence culture, then you will be able to influence politics. And this is basically what you're also doing, yes, to a better goal, I think, yes.
Yeah,
but
we're not trying to attack the Capitol.
And the authors of the book, they say that social media did to the culture wars what spinach did to Popeye, it juiced them up. Yeah, it's an interesting way of phrasing this, but this is something I think super important that is happening, in the sense that one could ask this question: why was there no such mobilization in 2014? While there was something, while the international community reacted in a much more coordinated way, and one could say this year, yes. And could we argue that this was also part because of what happened in the social media, and to what extent the information about what was happening and the pressure about what was happening and why action is needed was also exerted on this cultural level, and that it came back to politics in a way?
I think, I personally think that the reason why you didn't have support in 2014 and you did have support this year is because for some reason the switch flipped and people didn't believe the bullshit, for lack of a better word, that they were hearing from the Russian side anymore, because they saw the pictures that were coming out of Ukraine, right? Like, they saw the work that Evgeny Maloletka and Mstislav Chernov were doing in Mariupol and showing people, hey, this is the reality on the ground. And I think that social media probably played a large role, because all of those politicians have Twitter profiles and all that sort of stuff. So they see it as well, right? Like, they see the huge outpouring of support. And then, I mean, I remember early on there was the support memes of basically trolling or mocking all of the Western politicians and leaders, and that still goes on, but they were so strong in the beginning, basically shaming them and saying, like, what the hell are you doing, right? Like, you see the same photos that everybody else sees, but you're not doing anything about it. So maybe there is truth to that, about them opening up their Twitter or whatever and seeing the memes that they're tagged in, and then they decide, okay, well, it's just a theory, but maybe that actually did happen.
Yeah, I think everybody remembers. Do you remember that speech of Bill Clinton about Rwanda in the 90s, when he said, we did not know? I don't think that's possible anymore today. And it's part because of, to a big part, it's because of that. And, well, maybe I should say two things. There's a fantastic interview with Christian in The Village, the Ukrainian magazine. It's super long, and it kind of develops the whole history of Saint Javelin in detail. And the other one is the Kharkiv Independent, which was talked about yesterday. There is this fantastic article about memes and war memes and how to understand Ukrainian war memes. A lot of them that are published are actually...
Kyiv Independent.
What did I say?
I think you said Kharkiv Independent.
Sorry, I meant Kyiv Independent, of course. Slip of tongue. But it's really worth looking into that. And you say something, because we also play on, there's something about love in the title of our discussion. And this is also a question, yes? This relationship between laughter and seriousness and political impact, yes? So the whole article in the Kiev Independence is also about, you know, how memes give relief, how they help people cope with a difficult reality, but also how they help to rally people, yes? And you say something like, it's a funny design because it's a Virgin Mary holding a fucking rocket launcher. And this is basically it. I mean, I really love this, what happened when your T-shirt was given to Volodymyr Zelensky, and he said, yeah, I get it. Yeah? And then you kind of incorporated it again into your meme, because this is the thing, you know, to get it, yes? So one thing about memes and their impact is their radical locatedness in context, yes? That they're very much of their time. So this is why we put up this timeline, because it kind of punctuates all the important events of the war. And so one could say that the lifetime of a meme is very short, and I think that Saint Javelin is so fascinating because it is a meme that became a symbol, yes? Yeah. And so you have this kind of, this span that you hit something really point on, it became something very important, and so Zelensky looks at it and said, yeah, I get it, you know? And so it becomes this, the realization of this fantasy of a universal language or a universal sphere of communication about the internet. But at the same time, when we talked yesterday, when we got to know each other during lunch, because we just met yesterday for the first time, and we were talking about memes and war, of course. And then your collaborator, Julia, she said that for her it was also very interesting that when you look at memes, on the one hand, they seem to be this kind of universal thing that everybody gets it, yes, and then you immediately know what to do with it. You repost it, you make a donation, or you comment on it on the internet, and then, you know, many people do this, and it becomes this snowball effect. At the same time, very often they're so located in the context that is that they are legible only to a very small group of people. So there are also a lot of memes circulating in Ukraine, which are cryptic. Can you maybe explain one of these memes that are really hard to understand from somebody?
Like the raccoon meme. I mean,
oh yeah.
To understand that, or when Kherson was liberated, one of our Saint Javelin artists. I don't know, you guys might have seen this, but he basically borrowed Nike's Jumpman and replaced the basketball with a watermelon, and then the Jumpman with a Ukrainian soldier. So hopefully Nike doesn't sue us for that, but that's the kind of meme that you only understand if you understand the context of it. So it's almost like if you laugh at that, you're also part of a community.
Yes. So watermelons, cotton.
Yeah, cotton, all of the, I mean, you guys have it all here. What's that?
Tractors, of course, yeah. Of course.
Tractors is, I think, one of our best designs, actually. Really? Oh. Yeah, there's a lot of copycats of what we've done, but whatever, it is what it is. But I think like tractors and all of these events, not just memes, but moments that people understand, right? Like so many events, specific events in the war, and part of that timeline, you only understand it if you've basically been following the entire thing. So a lot of our audience doesn't know every single thing, but I don't know, for whatever reason, one particular moment stands out to them enough that they want to actually like wear that or have a sticker of it or whatever, right?
Yeah, so we have this kind of spectrum of, you know, like a universal claim of these gestures. Actually, I don't know if they're just images. They're something much more than just a picture. Yes, they are gesture aiming at some universality of meaning. They create community, but at the same time, this is something that you insist upon. They also have informational value, and I think this is super important. That if you if you build something like that in a very consequent way, like you've been doing for the last half year or more, is that you also try to convey, not only to convey a message, but also to inform people about what is going on.
Yeah. Yeah, like we're not I don't claim that we're journalism at all. Like we're a whatever. We are what we are. But we try to convey an image and maintain support as much as possible, because I know what our role is very specifically, right? So I try to show people all of the good things that are happening and the successes, and that there is a light at the end of the tunnel and stuff like that, and keep it as optimistic as possible. On the other hand, we do put out videos where they are very emotional, and like maybe you will cry or something like that. Or for example, last week a video went viral that we didn't make, but we bought a truck for a group called Donbass Evacuation, and they sent me a video and they said, hey, thanks for the truck, but it only lasted like 10 days and here's the video. So it was a video of them evacuating an old lady, and I can't remember in which town, but they got caught in grad shelling, so the whole vehicle was destroyed. And it's that is not the type of video that we usually post, but given the context of like we supplied that, and it gave people a really good understanding of how quickly it happens, right? Even some of my journalist friends were saying that's the most real example that I've seen of how quickly the situation on the ground can change and how quickly you can get caught in something like in artillery shelling, right? So that's probably I wouldn't say the darkest, but something along those lines of videos that we share. But otherwise, it's just mostly trolling the Russians, jokes, and optimism. Like that's our entire angle.
But I think what's very interesting in the context of that video that you just mentioned is, that kind of short circuit of communication, this kind of instant feedback, also gives people this kind of feeling of agency. In the sense that, if you donate to the Red Cross, the International Red Cross, you say like, okay, I'm giving it to a cause and it will be used sometime and somewhere. Maybe like consumed like 80% of it by the organization itself, And here you have something that is very focused, and you get instant feedback. I mean, you gave a donation, then you get an information. This truck was bought from this money, and then you get the information. Okay, it's gone. And so you also see that more help is needed. And it creates a certain conversation. I would say something that's ongoing. It's not like you do something once and then it's over, or you read a long article about the war and then you think you're informed, and and then after some time you forget about it because it's something that is instantly there, and maybe or all the time there. One thing that I would like to say in this context is, I don't know if you're familiar. There's this artist Hito Steyer, and she's German-Japanese origins, I think. And she's been a very interesting author also of critical text, and she wrote something, a very important essay, like in 2009. It's called In Defense of Poor Images. And I think that what we are witnessing right now is actually something that she has predicted or named in 2009 without there being a real culture for it yet, or without it being fully developed. And she wrote, this is how she defined the poor image. The poor image is a rag or a rip, an AVI or a JPEG, a lumpen proletariat in the class society of appearances, ranked and valued according to its resolution. The poor image has been uploaded, downloaded, shared, reformatted, and re-edited. It transforms quality into accessibility, exhibition value into cult value, films, exhibition value into cult value. This is something that is very much exemplified by Saint Javelin. Films into clips, contemplation into distraction. The image is liberated from the vaults of cinemas and archives and thrust into digital uncertainty at the expense of its own substance. The poor image tends toward abstraction. It is a visual idea and it's very becoming. I like this communicational aspect of it very much. And then she says something that I think is super important. The poor image thus constructs anonymous global networks, just as it creates a shared history. It builds alliances as it travels, provokes translation or mistranslation, and creates new publics and debates. By losing its visual substance, it recovers some of its political punch and creates a new aura around it. The aura is no longer based on the permanence of the original, but on the transience of the copy. It is no longer anchored within classical public sphere, mediated and supported by the frame of the nation, state, or corporation, but floats on the surface of the temporary and dubious data pools. And very elaborate way to say it, but you said it's not journalism. But one could argue that what we are looking at, the meme sphere and this kind of, instant circulation of images and messages, is something that has become as important as, serious journalism, in the sense that if these two don't go together, one might argue that there is no or not enough impact. Yes, in a way, we could say that we are here talking about memes, because memes can direct people to serious journalism or to serious action, and stimulate them to do something. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that, like, we don't do investigations or anything like that, right? We just post stupid stuff. I think that the most that we can do is convey potentially a lot of information in a very short period of time. So like as you're scrolling your Instagram feed or your Twitter feed, you see a thing that we've done, if it's a meme or a video, and you get an understanding in 2 seconds of something that's going on that day, right? But in no way, shape, or form do we replace like an investigation that takes months or something like that to do. At best case scenario, yeah, we make a meme about an investigation or something like that and point people in that direction. But I don't know if there's been a comparable before. What I actually did learn is that in World War II, the Brits had a crowdfunding thing called the Spitfire Fund, and they raised like the equivalent of $700 million in today's money to build Spitfires. So that was, somebody pointed that out to me, and that's the only example of, like, I guess what we have done, but on a way, 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 way bigger scale in the past, right? And they did kind of use memes, like they used graphics to inspire people and stuff like that. So there's posters. Posters. There's precedent for what we've done. I just think that, I really think that the reason why people get shocked about it or whatever is because of that image, right? Is because it's the Mother Mary holding a anti-tank grenade. Like it's a shocking image, but it also has a long history of, there's tons of saints who hold swords and spears and stuff like that. So if you look back at it, it's not as shocking. But yeah, we don't replace actual journalism in any way.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I didn't mean that. I just meant that it's kind of a reinforcing circle, so to say. Yes.
Yeah. Hopefully it benefits the work that like those investigative reports, and keeps people engaged in some small way, right? Like instead of asking somebody every day to read a 1,000-word article or whatever, maybe they get a slight bit of context and remain engaged in a time where you're fighting so much for people's attention, right?
Yeah, and I think this is also something that it's a dialectic, in the sense that there's a lot of discussion about this, how the internet flattens out our experience of the world, that it becomes an eternal instantaneousness, that we have no relay to history. Yes, that we are always bombarded with with now, and now, like every now is somewhere else, and they don't connect, and that our experience of the world is kind of shattered and dispersed into bits, and how to put this all together. But if you mobilize these kind of channels that attack our senses, with various impulses, if you are able to create a certain stream, yes, that makes sense. It's because you say you publish stupid things, but there is a logic to that.
Yeah.
There is a thought to that. There is a lot of research that goes into that. And you react to very specific things. It's not like you have this idea, okay, I'm going to post about watermelons, but it's an engagement in a discussion. So this is something that Hito Steyrl, she referred to Dziga Wiertow, who said that contemporary culture needs visual bonds, that this is a way that we can connect. She tries to go back to that idea. And I think that is something that is, how to say that, it's a good description of what you're trying to do. You know, create visual bonds between people who do not know each other. This is something that happened to the people. I mean, this is something that connected the people who marched on the Capitol on January 6th. Yes, for totally different reason. Yes, and we would. I don't think that anybody in this room would identify with those reasons. Yes, but this is how it works today, and this is how you rally people behind causes. Yes, so being conscious of these visual bonds and kind of participating in creating them, you know, this is a very important thing. So thanks for that.
Yeah, I think that the community that we've created is beyond anything I ever could have expected, right? Mm-hmm. And like the fact that it's so many people when it first started were like, oh, it's gonna be a few days or a week or something like that. And this thing still, it's a machine that's still, you know, we've done over $2.5 million in contributions since February, from direct donations to, like, we bought 158 generators last month. We bought, like, I don't know, 1,000 sleeping bags, like almost 1,000 winter jackets. And it's all because we do those things. We provide that value, that information, and the designs, and then we're able to distribute the money however we think is appropriate, right? And it's and then the self-reinforcing thing is, like, you buy the shirt, we have people in Ukraine who figure out where does the money go, and then we post where the money's gone very quickly. So, like, I'll give you an example. We bought 108 generators, and they were shipped the next day from a European country, and they were en route to Ukraine, and we showed people that, right? So
you're better than Amazon.
Yeah. Well, they sat at the border for a bit, but they're there now, and that was a very, very quick process, and it shows people that, like, hey, when you buy that shirt or those socks or whatever, like, there is a real thing that happens at the end of it, right? And I think that's probably what builds the community, and people want to see the effect of what they've purchased, right? Like you mentioned Red Cross or something like that. You kind of get lost in the shuffle. We have people who ask us, can I see the exact result of, like, the shirt that I've bought? And that's way too, I can't tell you when you bought a shirt in, you know, July, where did that $4, you know, it's impossible, but you can see the overall picture of everything that we're doing, right? So we try to do that as much as possible.
Yeah, no, and I also see that part of it, I mean, I would understand that part of it is also your efforts to transfer as much production as you can to Ukraine, creating new workplaces, and, you know, reinforcing the economy on that level. And of course, in the global, you know, scale of things, it's not much, but at the same time, it's super important because you have very specific people with names who have jobs thanks to that. Yeah, so
yeah.
And that is also something that people who see that when you post it, that they can identify with, and, you know, and kind of bear with this.
And we're trying. With you. We're trying to ramp that up in a big way. So, like, we've tested it, we've figured out how to do it, and now it's about, okay, how do we take, like, 90% of what we make and actually make it in Ukraine? Mm-hmm. But it's a really long process, right? So. But it's another unforeseen benefit of everything that we've done.
Okay, I think we should be finishing, but maybe there is you have questions, because we are sitting here and we are talking, and there's everybody there. Please. We don't hear you. We need a microphone.
Hold on.
You've told us you're making memes that are pretty specific for Ukraine and that are not understandable for the outer world. Yeah?
No.
Our entire audience is like 50% of our audience is in the US. Almost.
Yeah, I get it, but I wanted to ask, how do you make these memes understandable for the people who are out of context? How is it even possible? to make the memes about this raccoon, for example?
Oh. So how do you make memes for people who don't understand the situation?
Yeah, how do you balance this? I guess it's not easy to make it cool, to make it important and breaking news and understandable for somebody in the US or in Canada.
But this is the thing, that memes are totally dependent on context. So for example, if you have the attack on the Crimean Bridge and it's all over the news, and then somebody comes up with the cotton ball meme, the cotton season has started in Crimea, yes? Well, this is like a visualization of an idea. So the information was around, somebody saw a headline, and then when that person sees that meme, it's something that clicks, yes? So you laugh at it, because this is what I was referencing to when Volodymyr Zelensky was given the Saint Javelin t-shirt. He looked at him and said, yeah, I get it, you know. And this is a very strong moment of creating a community, yes? You know, to be in this situation where you know, yes?
Like
and
that aha moment of I understand. Yeah.
And you can't plan it. I mean, if that is the question, this is something that is you should ask
like
Christian.
We try sometimes.
How does it work?
Yeah, we try sometimes to explain the context of it, but it's almost like you get it or you don't. And a lot of our audience gets it because they've watched everything that's happened since like they're very invested, right? So it's, yeah, I mean, if it's something that's very niche, we also create a flurry of memes. It's usually not just one thing, it's like 5 or 6, and then hopefully people will understand the context because of that, but.
You said in an interview that, you know, the memes that make you laugh the most, they don't work. And the ones that work best are the ones that you didn't expect to work.
Did I say that?
Yeah,
No.
you did.
Yeah, that probably makes sense, yeah. Some of the memes that make me laugh the most are, it's almost the level of detail that, so we have one guy, his name's Rokas, and he does these really complicated video memes for us. And I laugh at the level of production that goes into it, because like he'll spend 100 hours, and he's like a film studio editor, and he'll devote 100 hours to making a meme about a singing HIMARS, and it goes like insanely viral, right? Just the idea of that, it's crazy, right? Mm-hmm. But it has the purpose that we hope it does, the effect that we hope it does. So, yeah.
Yeah, but this is maybe also an answer to your question that, you know, when the information came out that the HIMARS are going to go to Ukraine, this is something that generated this whole flood of memes, and then it became a thing. I mean, if that didn't happen, there would be just the information, you know. HIMARS rocket launchers are going to Ukraine, and then they became this kind of lingua franca of talking about the war, and also how to say that, expecting certain positive effects. Yes, so it becomes again something that is like a visual bond.
And we're at the point where, with the HIMARS, we understand what's about to happen, if like the effect that they might have and stuff like that. So we start working on that before it even happens. It's like it's a meme factory at this point. So,
do we have more questions from the floor?
I think we should stop anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.